Hello, I made a mistake. It's not part 3, this is actually part 4. Behavior economics is a growing area in economics. It's actually quite exciting. It's sort of a merging of psychology and economics, and there's a lot of interest in this. It's expanding how our analysis, our understanding of consumer behavior. And behavior economics is a way to look at consumer behavior that's sort of outside the regular norms of economics. And so one person has defined this as a study of human behavior in cases where people act in predictable ways counter to economic models. And what this normally means is that we always look at people behaving in such a way that if they can increase their well-being, and that's greater than the cost, then they're going to do it. And so if you can do something that can increase your well-being at no cost, and if you don't do it, we don't tend to understand that. But we're looking at people in terms of how they behave. For example, there's one famous study that looked at a game where you would give one person maybe $100, and usually they would pick students for these games at universities, and then person A will divide it up. And anyway, person A wants to, and then offer it to person B. So A can give maybe 50-50, and then if person B accepts it, they both get to keep it, and this is real money. And if person A says, I'll keep 60, you get 40, and if B says no, they both lose it. So B decides whether or not they get to keep the money, A is going to split it up. And so economics says, even if B only gets $1, B is going to accept it. Well, it turns out that's not the case. It turns out that once you get sort of below $80 and 20, B tends to say no more times than not. And the less B got, the more that B would say no, even though it doesn't make any sense because $20 is better than nothing, right? But it turns out there's actually non-monetary benefits that affect our behavior. And this would be a spite. Essentially, B is being insulted, and B is going to say, well, if you're going to be that way, I'm going to take us both down. And so that's kind of stuff that's being studied in behavior economics. The areas that your book points out are one, the sunk cost fallacy. And this is a very common mistake in people's behavior, but it happens all the time. Sunk cost is costs that have been paid and cannot be recovered. So, for example, if you paid $5,000 to get your car fixed from an accident, that $5,000 you can't get back. And therefore, it should have no effect at all on whether or not you should maybe sell that car. And if someone offers you $4,000 for the car and you say no because I just paid $5,000 for it, that is a mistake of sunk cost fallacy. What you should be asking yourself is the car worth more to me than $4,000 right now? Yes, I know I paid $5,000 to get it fixed up, but that money is gone. That's in the past. I can't change it. The question is, do I want the $4,000 now or the car? And if you still want the car, that's fine, but don't think about the $5,000 anymore. So decisions are influenced by cost already incurred instead of how the decision affects the current well-being. There's a phrase, no reason crying over spilt milk, and that is right. You can't change that fact. So what you want to do is base your decision on what you can do now. So a common occurrence is when people put a lot of money or time into something, and I mentioned the getting your car fixed. And again, the amount of time or money already paid really should have no bearing on what kind of decision you should do now. But unfortunately, people don't think that way. They always, or not always, but many people do think about the sunk cost, and that does affect their behavior. Something like you're at the dentist's office, I've already waited an hour, the dentist says it's not going to be another 20 minutes. You think, well, it's already been an hour, well, what's another 20 minutes? What you should ask yourself, is the 20 minutes worth waiting to see the dentist now? The hour is gone, you can't change that. Framing bias. This is the way a decision is presented or framed can affect the way people will respond to the decision. So people can be steered in one direction based on how the decision is framed. And this is used many times in pricing strategies. So for example, maybe if you buy one shirt and get 1/2 off the second shirt, sounds like a better deal than maybe 20% off on the purchase of 2 shirts, but the dollar amount is the same if the shirts have the same price. But again, it looks better to get 1/2 off. It's greater than 25% off, but the 1/2 is only on one shirt, and this is on both shirts. The dollar amount is the same if the shirts have the same price, but people think this might be greater. Doesn't hurt the merchant. They get the same return either way, but they can increase their sales if they present it this way, 1/2 off as opposed to 25% off of the entire sale. One that I notice quite a bit is like appliances, electric fans, coffee makers, blenders, things like that. They always seem to have like 3 options, and it's never really 2. And they learned a long time ago that 2 options was not great for sales because people tend to pick not the expensive one, but the less expensive one. So what they do is they create a 3rd one. Say you have a tea kettle, and so they have 2 here, maybe tea kettle 1, tea kettle 2, and people tend, this would be the high price one, number 2, people tend to buy 1 most often. Then they created a 3rd one that's even more expensive, the best one. People don't want to spend money like that on just on a tea kettle, but they don't want the cheap one, right? So they think now 1 is the cheap one, and now they would now buy the 2nd one. But they wouldn't normally buy the 2nd one, the 3rd one wasn't there. But they didn't develop and market the 3rd one to sell the 3rd one. They market that for the 3rd one to sell more of the 2nd one and get people out of the first one. Then there's overconfidence. People overestimate one's abilities to do things, and that could lead to wrong decisions. For example, students being able to cram for a test, you figure I'll be able to cram for the test in economics. It turns out you can't, but at the time you thought, yeah, I can cram, therefore I don't have to study now. I can wait until the night before the exam. It turns out many times you can't. Being able to pick the correct stocks out there. Many people think that they can day trade and beat the market. You really can't. Being able to stand next to a waterfall without falling in. I can't believe how many people die while falling into a waterfall, slippery rocks, so many places like that. That I don't understand at all. But they think they can cross the barrier, they can peek over the edge and without falling in. People also overvalue the present relative to the future. They think what happens in the future doesn't really matter much, and so they keep putting off tough decisions today. It makes it much more difficult to solve problems in the future. One big problem is saving. Many Americans, many students feel that, I have plenty of time to save, where you really don't. And all the studies have shown, all the experts have shown that the earlier you save for your retirement, the much easier it's going to be able to save, and also you're going to save a lot more money. If you start at age 20, putting in whatever you can into your Roth IRA or your 403b account or your 401k account, the sooner you start that, the much greater your dollar amount of retirement you're going to have later on. Putting off doing a term paper, doing nothing about climate change, that's the big problem right now. We are doing an experiment with the only planet we have, and it's not going so great so far. And then we have altruism. Doesn't make any sense for people to spend time and money helping strangers, but we do it all the time. Someone needs money for gasoline, I tend to do it. Person could be lying, but if the person really needs help to get home, I'm willing to do it. Give directions to a theater or give directions to a motel. People do that all the time. So people can be quite helpful, even though there's there's no return in it for themselves, but they still do it. And again, that doesn't go well with the traditional model of economics, where people want to maximize their utility, when sometimes they take time and effort and money to actually help others. And all these different areas are being studied in behavioral economics, and it's really a fascinating area. And if you are interested in this as a student, then you might want to think about getting a degree in economics and then moving into behavioral economics. These people are being hired by corporations, by businesses, by government agencies to deal with to deal with the HR departments, dealing with employee relations, dealing with consumer relations. So this is a major, major area that's growing right now in economics and psychology as well, because it's combining both together. And it's really fascinating, really interesting, and it can lead to a lot of job opportunities. Okay, I'll stop there, and that is it for Chapter 6.